If you've been following my content since back when Ghost Recon Wildlands launched, you'll know that the game had a big impact on me. It brought this iconic franchise back from a long hiatus with a grounded but massive open world experience. It was tactical at massive scale, but it did so without being tedious, and it ended up being one of my favorite games of the year. And after all of these years, Ubisoft has brought new life back to Wildlands. As part of the franchise's 25th year anniversary, they rolled out a free major update for the game called Last Rites that adds 4K 60 FPS gameplay to current gen consoles, a brand new storyline and missions, new customization options, and a massive sale on the franchise with discounts up to 95% off. Now, I'd like to give a big shout out to Ubisoft for reaching out to give me early access to this content and sponsoring the video. As some of you may know, I'll take any excuse to jump back into Wildlands, and this was an easy one for me. So getting back into the game now with the Last Rites DLC was both a new and old experience in the best way possible. The new content eases you back into the game's navigational mechanics and world while still offering some new plot twists. The tutorials are helpful, but they're also simple prompts that can be dismissed quickly or ignored entirely if you're just familiar with the game. But they did help me get up to speed after just a couple of missions. It's easy to forget just how massive this world is. Much of it you can blast past in a helicopter, boat, or a truck, but when you actually stop to smell the flowers, I mean, it's just stunningly huge. Now, Last Rites is set 4 years after the events of the main story. The main hostile faction, Unidad, is back in action despite you taking out their entire leadership, but there's also a mysterious second force rising to power in Bolivia. And you'll end up taking on both of these factions across several missions, but I don't want to spoil what happens because, to be honest, it's actually a very compelling storyline. And this isn't really much of a spoiler, but by the end of it, the new faction replaces Unidad forces across the map. And jumping back in, I was also reminded by just how well made the world is. Something that makes Wildlands really unique across open world shooter genres is just how unique and full of South American terrain and cultures this game is. It's a world of lush countryside, incredible vistas, massive cities, charming towns, and rural, muddy roads that go on forever across the landscape, dotted with tiny little shanty towns and sheds, and of course, military bases. You get these salt flats, mountainside roads with insane cliff faces on one side that'll drop you to your death, and tons of forests and wetlands to get lost in. And the crafting of all of this art and assets is so well done that you really do feel the heat and humidity of the environment. And revisiting these locations nearly 10 years after the game launched, it still blows me away just how well everything holds up. And it goes beyond just some of the environmental assets. Everywhere you go, there's civilians going about their business. They drive to and from work, they walk around towns and villages, they act out their daily routines and chores. There's wildlife that you'll come across in nature, and it really just sells the environment so well. And the game's enemies feel just as rooted in the region as well, rather than being some sort of tech-clad mercenaries in a foreign land. The opening mission sets you up for a bit of stealth infiltration against Unidad in a small building. Just a handful of enemies, nothing too crazy, but as a refresher for getting back into the game, it starts off very solid. But of course, I alerted a guard, and then the Unidad fighters are called in for backup, and what started as a simple stealth mission turned into a 4-man standoff against basically a whole army. I finally made it out and escaped via a boat headed to the next objective. And then of course there's the new faction with different personalities, attire, and dialogue. Well, they really stand out. The mission that first introduces the new faction also starts with a bit of stealth. You're assaulting a compound to get intel, and the place is heavily guarded with the new faction. And where Unidad tends to just flood you with soldiers, this newer faction feels far more tactical. I pulled off a standard flank to secure the compound, but once I got the intel I was after, another patrol swarmed the building. And unlike Unidad, there weren't trucks full of soldiers getting dropped off or helicopters spotting me. This was a good old-fashioned shootout against soldiers that felt a lot more capable. Really, it feels like the new faction is less militarized than Unidad, but still very challenging. Like, they make far better use of the forces that they have. And especially as a returning player, this injects a whole different vibe to the game. Again, no spoilers, but the way that the new missions handle this transition of power also fits the game quite well, and it doesn't feel like some random DLC that was cooked up that's just out of place. Now, like I mentioned at the start, there are some steep discounts on Wildlands right now. And I mean, it's an old game, so that's to be expected, but honestly, if you've never played Wildlands, I mean, this DLC and these discounts are an excellent excuse to check out what I think is a very unique game that's never really been matched by anything else out there. And as somebody who's sunk many hours into the game already, well, frankly, I felt the original experience ended a little bit more on a puff than a bang. And this DLC really helps kind of up that endgame ante, which I think is an excellent observation of Ubisoft. Back when this game launched, I was not shy about sharing my opinions that I wish Ubisoft had explored the game further. Their world tech was so impressive and the engine felt so capable. I was even able to play the game on triple monitors back then, which was crazy immersive and just a testament to how well the game ran. Ubisoft really cooked up something special, and playing through the game I could envision all sorts of additional modes and features like a massive open world battle royale or extraction experience, co-op PvE missions with more than 4-player support, a Predator style hunter versus survivor mode which they basically added to the game. You name it, Wildlands seemed absolutely ripe to expand for it. And to their credit, Ubisoft put a lot of stuff into the game post-launch, expanding its co-op and PvP modes, adding tons of additional cosmetics and even new ways of playing the game like Ghost mode that massively upped the stakes with permadeath, realistic reloading mechanics, a ground arsenal, friendly fire, minimized HUD, and so on and so forth. And this update obviously has been a long time coming since the game got its previous update, well, years ago at this point, but it slots right in and feels like main game content, and it feels like it was built by the original dev team. And after playing through the new Last Rites missions and content, I gotta say I'm kind of inspired to play through the whole campaign again. It was just that much fun. I thought I had done everything Wildlands could offer, including all the crazy modded content, but they pulled me back in with this update and I highly recommend it. Now, if you're interested to see just how deep my fascination with Wildlands goes, check out this video featuring an incredible first-person mod that allows you to essentially experience the game as if it were a first-person shooter. I think you guys will really dig it. Thanks again to Ubisoft for sponsoring this video and for showing Wildlands some much-deserved love after all these years. Check out the description to see all the deals they're offering. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.